Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Liam Douglas here, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the GFX 50S medium format mirrorless camera. But before we get into all of that, let's go ahead and roll the intro. Okay, so as I mentioned before the intro, today we're taking a look at the Fujifilm GFX 50S medium format mirrorless camera. Now this was the first mirrorless medium format camera that was released by Fujifilm. Up until this point, the only medium format cameras were made by companies such as Hasselblad and Phase One, and they were incredibly expensive. Now, before I get into all the details about this camera, I did want to let my viewers know that this one is on loan to me from Robert's Camera. Thanks to Meredith from Robert's Camera for lending me this camera and the Fujifilm G-mount 110mm lens. They're both on loan from Robert's Camera, so a shout out for them. Now, they are not sponsors of the channel, but they are kind enough to lend me gear to do reviews on, and I do greatly appreciate it. So if you're looking for any new camera gear, be sure to check out robertscamera.com. And if you're shopping for any used camera gear, or you're looking to sell any of your used camera gear, check out their sister site at Used Photo Pro. And I'll have a link to both their sites in the description down below so you can check them out for yourself. So the Fujifilm GFX 50S is the oldest of all of the GFX cameras released by Fujifilm. This is the very first mirrorless medium format body that Fujifilm released. It was announced back in 2016 at 𝐕𝐈𝐃𝐒, and it was released the following February in 2017 for an MSRP of $6,500 US. Now, this camera is a 51.4 megapixel sensor, the same exact sensor that's in my GFX 50R that you've seen me do videos on before. And it is a 43.8 by 32.9 millimeter CMOS sensor in a bare array with a primary color filter. Now, the lens mount is the G mount from Fujifilm, and as you can see here, it is a massive sensor. That's a very large sensor, considerably larger than your standard 35 millimeter full frame sensor. It is 1.7 times larger, and the crop factor is 0.79. Now, it is, as I said, an effective 51.4 megapixels, which makes it, the resolution is 8256 by 6192. It has dual SD card slots on this side over here, and the battery bay is over here on this side. It takes the exact same size battery as my GFX 50R, as well as the original GFX 100. So all three camera bodies take the exact same battery. Now, it does not have any image stabilization. For still images, it does JPEG as well as RAW, and it does 8-bit, it does TIFF as well as in-camera RAW conversion. For movies, it does MPEG-4, and it does do audio linear PCM stereo sound at 48 kilohertz. Now, the aspect ratios that the camera is capable of are 4:3, 3:2, 16:9, 1:1, 65:24, 5:4, and 7:6. It does have a mechanical focal plane shutter and ISO sensitivity. It has auto ISO as well as ISO manual from 100 to 12,800. And the ISO sensitivity can be extended from ISO 50 to 102,400 digital super snowstorm. For the mechanical shutter, it can do 1/4000th to 4 seconds in program mode, 1/4000th to 60 minutes, 0 to 60 minutes as well. For the electronic shutter, it can do 1 to 16,000ths to 4 seconds in program mode, 1/16,000ths to 60 minutes, and 0 to 60 minutes. For the electronic front curtain shutter, it can do 1/4000th to 4 second in program mode, 1/4000th to 60 minutes, and 0 to 60 minutes. Now for exposure control, it has TTL 256 zone metering, and it offers spot, multi-zone metering, average, and center weighted as well. For exposure modes, it has program, aperture priority, shutter priority, speed priority, and manual. The exposure compensation is plus or minus 5 EV in 1/3 steps. For movie recording, it is plus or minus 2 EV. The shutter type, as I mentioned before, is a focal plane shutter. And we've already covered the shutter speeds, of course. Continuous shooting, it can do up to 3 frames per second for unlimited shooting JPEGs, and 13 lossless compressed RAW files or 8 uncompressed RAW files. It does offer interval recording, and it does have a 2 to 10 second delay for a self timer. For the autofocus system, it is a 117-point TTL contrast detect system with manual, continuous, single focus modes, AF frame selection, single point zone AF, and with wide tracking AF as well. It does have various white balance modes, and the self-timer delay is 10 or 2-second delay, as I mentioned a moment ago. And the bit depth is 14-bit. Now, it can be used with flash. You can do flash sync, first curtain and second curtain, as well as auto FP and high-speed sync with flash. Now, another nice thing about this camera is it does have many blank buttons on it that can be custom configured. It has one here on the front near the lens mount, and it has some other ones on the top, on the back side here, that can be custom programmed. On the side here, it has another port door that opens up where it has some of your additional ports. It has a data port that looks like eSATA, and then it also has a micro HDMI port for micro HDMI out. It has an audio port as well as a sync port. And on the other side, of course, it has the dual SD card slots. On the back, you have the standard D-pad. None of the buttons are labeled. They can be custom configured and programmed as well. You have your PASM dial on the top here. You have your PASM dial, which also does your shutter speeds. You have your shutter speed dial on this side, your PASM dial on this side. Which can flip through your various modes. Now, one of the unique things about this camera that mine does not do, the 50R does not do, is this one does also have a removable EVF. This is I believe it's a 3.69 dot EVF that is detachable. It is the same EVF that's used on the original GFX 100, so they do share the same EVF. There are, I believe, 2 different EVFs. There's one that flips up that can be used on both bodies as well. So that's definitely something that's unique with the 50S and the original GFX 100. Now this one seems to be missing the little eye cup. That's just the way it was sent to me, so it does not have the rubber eye cup on the back. I didn't find it in the bag or anything. So a little bit disappointing that the eye cup is missing, but this one is a rental body. The rear LCD does flip up this way, which is extremely handy if you want to do waist level shooting. You could have it flipped up like that and look down into it for shooting that way. And then you can also additionally, if you shoot it vertically, which a lot of photographers like to do, especially wedding photographers, if I could get it here, I know there's a way you can flip this thing. You can tilt it vertically as well, but it doesn't seem to be releasing for me, so I can do that. But maybe there's something jammed on this one, being it's a rental body. I don't know, but it's supposed to be capable of flipping vertically as well. I'm not going to force it because I don't want to damage it. And then, of course, it has this e-ink display on the top as well. Now, this body was also a body that you could get a battery grip for, as you see the contacts for here on the bottom. So you could put 2 batteries in it at once. I do like the grip on this one. Don't get me wrong, I love my GFX 50R with the rangefinder body styling. But this one is in some ways, especially if you don't have the hand grip for the 50R like I do from Small Rig, which you cannot get those anymore. I do like the design of this one because it has a deeper hand grip for people like me with larger hands. It does give you a more comfortable grip, a deeper grip for holding this body. It's not that the body's super heavy. It is a bit bulkier than my 50R. So it is nice to have that deeper grip. It does come in handy to give you a little more stability when holding the body. And it's got this nice thumb bump out on the back as well. As you can see, it fits my large hand extremely well with the deep hand grip channel here, and then the thumb bump out on the back makes it extremely comfortable to hold this camera. Especially if you're going to go like I am here and you're going to use one of the larger medium format lenses with it, like this 110 millimeter lens that I also borrowed from Roberts, because this is a little bit of a heavy lens, not super heavy, but it's a bit of a beefy lens. And with the deep grip and the thumb brace on the backside here, makes it a heck of a lot easier to manhandle this heavier, this lens makes the camera a bit more front heavy, makes it a lot less unwieldy with this larger lens on it. Or if you had like the 250 millimeter lens, that one's a bit bigger and heavier. Definitely is going to make it a lot more accommodating to have this large grip on the front, as well as the stabilizing thumb bump on the back side. Extremely handy, especially if you're going to be out shooting in the field all day long. And again, this camera does not have any kind of image stabilization like the newer GFX 100S2 or the 100S or the GFX 100 Mark II do. The 50 series cameras, for whatever reason, Fujifilm did not put image stabilization in these bodies, so you don't have that to assist you when you're shooting. Now, these cameras do give you more of a feel of a film camera because they are considerably slower when you're capturing an image, so you do want to keep that in mind. I personally like the feel. I like the much slower process because I did start out doing photography in the days of film. I kind of like the slower feel of the process. It's one of the things that I really like the most about shooting medium format. Now, the nice thing about GFX, as I've stated before in my other videos about the GFX system, is it's a way for people to get into medium format that's not as cost prohibitive. As I mentioned earlier, Hasselblad has made, medium format cameras for a long time, even medium format mirrorless cameras with digital backs. Phase 1 has made digital back mirrorless medium format cameras, digital medium format cameras, but they've been extremely cost prohibitive. Both of those companies, their cameras can run up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. The digital backs can be $50,000 to $100,000 just for the backs themselves. Where this camera, when it came out new in 2017, was $6,500, about the same price as a flagship full frame camera at the time. So for the same price as a full frame flagship, you could have a mirrorless medium format body. And then of course the 50R was considerably cheaper when it first came out at $5,000. So even cheaper than a flagship full frame camera. And they've come down even more over the years. The original GFX 100 when it came out was $10,000. And then when the 100S came out, I think that one sold, the 100S sold for $7,500, I think, or something like that. Or maybe that one was $6,500. No, I think it was $7,500 because the 100S2, I think is $6,500 and the 100 Mark II is $7,500, something like that. But either way, I mean, when you look at it, considerably cheaper than $100,000 for a Phase 1 or a Hasselblad with an interchangeable back on it. And then of course there's the factor that yes, although the Fujifilm lenses for medium format some people would say they are expensive, and they are to an extent. Some of the lenses can run $3,000 and $4,000. But when you look at the Phase 1 and the Hasselblad medium format cameras, their lenses are even more expensive. I've seen some of the Hasselblad lenses that are $6,000 and $8,000 and $10,000 for a single lens, and the same with the Phase 1 medium format body. So considerably more expensive, where, you know, if you're looking at Canon or Sony or Nikon, you know, their high level glass for their full frame bodies can run about the same price as the Fujifilm medium format lenses. So on par. So not really as cost prohibitive as those other medium format systems. So I'm going to go ahead and share some images that I've captured with this camera and sensor so that you can see them for yourself. And then I'll come back and wrap up this video. Okay, so as you saw, I was able to capture a variety of images with this camera using both the 110mm lens as well as some of my own lenses, just so you can get an idea. And like I said, the sensor is the exact same sensor that's in my 50R, so the image quality is going to be identical. The dynamic range is exactly the same. The film simulations are the same. It's all going to be pretty much the same, but you can get some amazing detail with this GFX 50S, just like you can with my 50R. It may be a camera that's been out for 8-9 years now, but is still extremely capable. This camera in particular is extremely popular with wedding photographers for some of the more formal wedding photographs. I know quite a few wedding photographers that like to use this particular body for those kind of shots of the bride and groom, or the bride and groom and their families, stuff like that. 𝐵𝐵𝐃𝐄 loves to use this body for those kind of shots, especially, and he loves the 4:3 aspect ratio because he doesn't crop at all. And he always shoots with this body in the vertical format anyway, so the 4:3 aspect ratio is absolutely perfect for him. It's one of the things he absolutely loves about his 50S body, and that is how he primarily uses this particular body with his Mitakon lens that he absolutely loves. And as he said in his review of this body, his Mitakon lens may not be one of the sharpest lenses on the market, but an f1.4 aperture, he totally loves it, and he uses it for weddings all the time, and he gets absolutely fantastic results. All right, that's going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch it. Please remember to subscribe down below, turn on all notifications, and I will see you all in the next video.